Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to the Spotlight presented by the Beauty Agent Network. My guest here, Dario Cotroneo. He is all the way from Australia right now. So thank you for joining us because it's not even Monday, it's Tuesday there, right?
Tuesday morning, yes.
Tuesday morning, yeah. So I love the fact that Australia works for us to be able to be like my end of day, your beginning of the next day. So we can still do these kind of things and nobody has to do really crazy hours, because really what we want to be able to share that Dario has to offer is not only that he's coming to the USA to provide some education, but there's a very much a uniqueness to him and his company and his education offerings. You have a company called DCI Education, which is partly your name, Dario, but there's another meaning to that.
Yeah.
So it's an education company as well as a salon owner. And I want you to be able to kind of give us a little bit of that history about who you are, how you got involved in the industry, and what has you want to come over to the USA, as well as other places that I'm sure you're traveling, and share your insight and some of what you have to offer.
Thank you. Well, DCI stands for Dream, Connect, Inspire. And I really got that walking through New York in the late 90s. Really come up with the name that, originally we were going to call it my name. And I thought, I love the idea of we dream together, we connect together, and ultimately we get inspired together. I've been 29 years in hairdressing. I started out, worked for Tony and Guy 20 something years ago. Worked with Leon Gorman, which is a great session stylist in New York. Nick Irwin, a beautiful hairdresser called Ben Cook. And Ben was Victoria Beckham's Bob. An amazing time in my career. And then I left Tony and Guy and got into session work full time. And then really come over to the US. And I went to 5 of the best salons in the US, from Garen's to Frederick Fekkai to John Barrett to Orbay. Really, I gravitated to 2 salons, which was Garen's and Bumble and Bumble. And I loved Bumble and got a job with Bumble and came back to Australia. And I had a mum that was very ill, and I decided to stay in Australia with my family. And really, hence, from that point, I started traveling with KMS, beautiful American brand at the time, privately owned. So I launched KMS into Asia, traveled around Australia many times, New Zealand. Then worked with Joyco, Damien Carney, and Tabitha over in the US.
We just had him on last week. Did you get a chance to catch him?
Amazing guy, super talented.
He is an understated talent. Like, I don't think people realize the depth of his talent. So, and he's a nice man. He's really nice.
Very humble. And same with Tabitha, very humble, very humble. And then really, after leaving Joyco, I moved on to launch GHD in Australia. And then I launched Cloud9. And then really we went out on our own and started working with L'Oreal doing our online learning. So in 1998, we launched online learning with the first iPhone, and really did online learning in 9 different languages, traveled to 15 countries to meet L'Oreal, understand the markets, the US. I spent a bit of time with L'Oreal in the US, understanding the US market. I love the US. They're lateral thinkers. And for me, that's very deep. I love to get to the source of the why we're doing it, not just how do we do it. And that's where Australia and the US are very different.
And you know what? I love that you said that, though, because that's just not just how to cut a hair, but why cut the hair that way. And
what's going to motivate
I really like that philosophy when you talk about that.
Yeah, but I get that a lot when I crave why I love coming back to the US, because I love the way American hairdressers think. It's you've got to motivate them with why they're doing what they're doing. Otherwise, they will not get off their chair. They don't understand it.
How is that different from other parts of the world? That's always what's interesting to us, is like, why are we so different?
Incredibly, because it's just a different way to I think Americans process differently. And so it's much deeper their thinking's much deeper. Where in Australia, it's a much more relaxed. People are like, I'll see how that goes. Where Americans aren't so risk averse. So Americans will be like, okay, I want to minimize the risk. I need to understand it before I do it. Which I love that, because it means the facilitator has to do more work, which means I love deep thinking. So I love getting to the source.
They got to be on their game in order to cover that front end why.
Yes.
In order for the learning to actually take place.
100%. And I think that's where, I got that very early on in America, getting to the source of what motivates us. And then after this time with L'Oreal, we launched a product called MyCurl. And MyCurl was really a device that we invented globally to inspire hairdressers to create pin curl sets in 5 minutes to 10 minutes.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah, so we patented it worldwide. I launched it all around the world. And it was a really, really beautiful, and still is, really beautiful product. So we can do really beautiful soft waves, but flat waves so you don't put weight on the client or broaden the client's face. So if you go to mycurl.me, that's our website. That'll explain everything about what that does, which is amazing. And then I launched Alterna, which was the last time I wanted to get sponsored. I made a choice that I'd rather be independent of sponsorship, purely because I wanted to be very authentic in my thoughts, not cash for comments or not being persuaded by the manufacturer in terms of what to get out versus what I wanted to get out. So Paul Mitchell asked me to design 2 haircuts exclusively for their market in Australia, and which I did over 2 years, which was amazing. I've never been asked by a company to design and give them a philosophy and approach on the core of the technique, which is really a lot of fun. And just this year, we've launched our Elevate program. So we teach about 160 hairdressers a month around the country. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. We teach high achievers, hairdressers that want to be better or the best version of themselves. And what I want to talk a lot today about to my American audience is understanding what is their style currency. Hairdressers, I don't think hairdressers value enough what their style currency is, or we get complacent with our style currency. And for me, what style currency means is really about what's the currency of someone walking out of your salon and levitating, gravitating, or do they have gravitational pull or gravitational push in terms of people coming up to them and saying, where did you get your haircut? And that for me is our style currency. No matter what name is behind the haircut, it's really about what that haircut says about how it arms the client with confidence, and how it defines you as a hairdresser in terms of its sustainability. So we like to teach, and why I love America, it really pushes me as an educator. I generally teach a lot of educators over in the US, high achieving educators from LA to New York. And I just love how they appreciate the depth of the techniques. And that really drives and thrives me to, it gives me oxygen. So I really don't feel like I'm working when I come over. It's really like, I like to connect with the energy and friends. So yeah.
I love the philosophy around style currency. Because we always say that if you're not learning, you're not growing.
Yeah. 100%.
So if you're not bringing new techniques, new skill sets into your career, you're not able to kind of keep creating that next level for yourself. And then we get bored, and then we feel complacent, and then we complain, and then we want to go get a job where they pay us by the hour or something like that. And
and Anthony Whitaker, which is a New Zealand-based hairdresser, but he does a lot of work in the US. And I remember Anthony saying, Anthony said, a very talented hairdresser, an amazing speaker. Anthony said a few years ago, if you want to earn more, you need to learn more. And I love that. And when I started hairdressing, I charged $17.95 for a haircut, $17.95. That was 29 years ago. And now I charge up to $550 for a haircut. And what I do teach hairdressers is what happened in between. And that really is about having a unique style code, having a unique identity to why you do what you do, but also really understanding that your techniques have to be different to what the market is doing. Because ultimately you do not stand out. We just become a hairdresser versus doctor, dentist, hairdresser. You really want to be in the core part of your client's thinking in terms of self-confidence, self-belief. And really, if you can think of who is part of her team, you want to be in that team.
So that's a really good question then for you, Dario, is, from $17.95 to $500 and something, what's one thing that you do differently to other hairstylists?
Yeah, we diagnose, we very much look at ourselves like the cosmetic surgeon of hair. So we look at bone structure, we look at, really how can we align a haircut best suited to the body, neck, and face. And as I mentioned in our last video, part of my training is I spent some time with a cosmetic surgeon. And what that surgeon did, and I thought I was pretty good when I met him, because ego can do some really bizarre things to you where you could think you know it all. And I was trying to avoid this hookup that this company was trying to put me in the same room with this very talented surgeon. And at the time, you know, when I met this surgeon, it blew me away because, you know, when someone goes in to get a nose job and they walk out thinking they've corrected all their flaws, it actually only draws attention to something else. And so it's actually a never-ending process. So what I learned from when we went deep on this, I started to realize when a woman wants bangs, you know, we don't say yes, we challenge her and we say, okay, well, how confident are you with your nose or your profile? Whatever word you choose to use that's aligned to your values. I'm very direct, but I talk from my heart. I heart talk to people. Yeah. So I don't offend people. I'm just really honest because I attract really honest people. And so we, you know, when a woman says to you, you know, why, you say, well, if you can answer the question, I'll be able to tell you why. And if she says, well, I don't like my nose or I'm not comfortable with my profile, you say, well, you won't like a bang or fringe, as we say, because that pushes your nose forward. So that's avoiding a car crash in terms of experience. So same thing with length. You know, I was up in the Gold Coast here, which is Miami in America. We had this amazing experience. It was the best salon in the Gold Coast. And this lady walked in. And I love you know, the addiction for me is lifting self-esteem. I love seeing, you know, we watch people when they walk in, the way they're dressed is how confident they were today to come into your salon. Some people overdress because it's a lack of confidence. I have to wear so much armor and makeup to be my authentic self. And we have women that absolutely have no sense of self, which the hairdresser could be the starting process to making her, awakening her to feel 21 again. Yeah. She's got kid, mortgage, she's got lots of things and she puts herself last. This lady came in and no one wanted to look after her. I could see the staff pulling away and I said, would you like me to do the consultation diagnostics? And they went, yes. So I walked up to this lady and I said to her, do you mind if I'm extremely honest with you? And she said, yeah, no problem. And I said, okay, like brutal. She said, yeah. She goes, I've got a photo. And I said, of course you do. And she showed me the photo and it was a woman with short hair and she was a beautiful model. And I said, you know, great photo. And I said, why do you want, what's inspiring you to go this short? She goes, well, I like that look. And I said, do you understand the responsibility of going that short? She said, I said, well, the shorter you, she goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, the shorter you go, the more you push the body out. The longer you go, the more you push the body in. So what would you like me to do? And that's how we communicate with guests. We pretty much, we make visible the invisible before it becomes visible. Because once it becomes visible, it's our problem because we didn't warn them that was, you know, that was going to happen in terms of.
And we could say it's just hair, but hair dictates all of these other facial structures and body structure where, it, you know, it's, you're trying to emphasize the positive and try to disguise what you don't want to focus on.
Yeah, and we never mention hair in our diagnostics. Hair is the last thing I talk about. I talk about how I can rebalance. Like, think of buying a jacket and the jacket has all the right shape and padding and you take the jacket off and your frame looks differently. That's the same approach we have with hair. We look at the wardrobe of haircuts that we have to offer per season because your skin complexion changes 4 times a year as the seasons change. So you have to evolve with your color. Otherwise you look tired, right? And so the idea is a haircut. So anyway, this lady, we then started educating her and she said, what do you suggest? And we walked her through this beautiful A-line. And at the end of the haircut, she was crying. Everyone was crying. Everyone wanted to touch her because they wanted what she had, which was confidence at the end that we gave her. Everyone was hugging her. When we took the cape off, she even looked better in terms of her wardrobe. So for me, it all starts with hair because it's visible. What we try to do is connect the inside to the outside. So it's a much more holistic approach. So we help hairdressers connect. I think a lot of hairdressers, you know, in terms of what I've learned, and I speak only from my history, is that, you know, I wasn't a very good listener when I was younger. I was very much into style transferring. You know, we get influenced. We like things that, you know, make us excited in terms of creativity. And then we execute it on the floor. And, you know, maybe 7 times out of 10, it works. It's the 3 that, the 3 that doesn't work that really, you know, in terms of confidence, you could either ignore it in your 20s or, you know, I'm in my 40s now. So for me, you know, we have about a 94% retention rate in our salon. And that's really what drives me. I love the retention and the retaining of relationships long-term because it's a marriage. It's, you know, I've been at clients' weddings around the world. They want you to come with them on their journey as much as you want them to come with you on your journey. And I think it only comes through really understanding a person. We have this amazing diagnostic process. It's world-class. It's taken 29 years just to get the results we get. That we have a process that's just so beautiful where we get to know the person's style first. Once we understand their style, we challenge them, they get upset, and we push them. We talk about how this is more long-term. It's not just, a one-night stand transaction. So we have a really sense of value of what we do. It's a bit like someone calling your salon and say, how much do you charge for this? We never answer that question. I mean, I think it's ridiculous for a hairdresser to say, master-slave attitude of a guest calling and saying, how much do you charge? And the slave says, this much. What we do is we challenge clients to say, well, let me tell you about the services that we offer. And if they say, well, how much is that? As I had on Saturday, I love answering the phone, by the way. It's comical relief. And so, this guest said, well, I just want to know how much. And I said, well, we really need you to come in for a complimentary diagnostic. Please don't call it a consultation because it has no value. A diagnostic is like a dermatologist for skin. So we need to see what we've got to work with before we can diagnose. And I said to her, look, I need you to come in so we can diagnose. She wanted highlights. And I said, highlights are quite an old technique. What I'd like you to do is come in so we can see what color will align with your current haircut, because she wasn't booking in for that. And I said, I really want to see that we can give you the most modern version of yourself versus perhaps doing something you've always had. And one quote that I love is Zaha Hadid, beautiful quote, amazing architect, passed away 2 years ago. She said she designs buildings for how she sees the future living, not how the past is lived. And when people challenge me and say, I want this, we have two choices: to go into a coma or our default setting and say, okay, because I'm asleep too. Or we can go back and say, I want to challenge you because I want you to come back to me because I'm on every time. And that's why I charge what I charge, because I give everything of myself. Now I have two prices. I have $275 for a haircut, which is 45 minutes. And that's more for my regulars. For my princess clients and my shalom clients and all my clients that love more time with me, that's 90 minutes and that's $550. So what I'm doing is I'm selling my time with people, and I really value my time.
That's always what it is. Do you think, and help me, guide me in this conversation here, Dario, do you think that there's a confidence more with the hairdresser for them to be, as you stated earlier, brutally honest with a client?
Yeah.
Don't you think we're people pleasers to some degree, and this is what they want and we just want to do it, and we also then lack our own confidence at times to be able to think we could do something more unique or different for that client so that we can access that value and charge more?
Yeah.
What would you recommend what would you say to these hairdressers that are thinking, oh, I couldn't be brutally honest?
The advice that I give is that spend 3 days with myself and I'll give you the content and the confidence, because it's all about content. If your content, I'll give you an example. If you say to a woman, I'd love you to give you some shoulder pads to really slim down the hips of your face. Now that's a language that women will respond well to. And I learned this understanding consumers, and I did a lot of work in the consumer space when I did editorial hair, working with a lot of beauty editors for magazines. So that really helped me understand that consumer doesn't want to know that she's getting graduation. The consumer, we never mentioned the
two layers. I only want 2 layers.
Yeah. And we've all seen that Facebook picture, right? Or 3. Right. So for me, we never mentioned layers. You mentioned the L word, you're in trouble. You've got to spend 5 minutes explaining it's different. So what we do is we call it controlled volume. Now, if a woman's got a dominant chin, this is a classic example. As soon as your guest walks in, take your iPad, take a photo of her side on, take a photo from the back of her head with her hair, obviously seeing her hair, and put the iPad on her lap and ask her a simple question: is what does she care about? And go really silent. See, silence is golden, right? Nervous energy, you talk too much and the client's like, I'm confused, you're confused, we're both confused, trim it. So if you go really quiet says a lot about your confidence about your question. And I really carefully select, your answer is only as good as your question.
Yes.
And we sit down with them and say, what do you care about? And if they're confused, you say, well, what would you like me to improve? And we always start on the side-on profile because she doesn't look at herself 3-dimensionally. See, the thing is, we've got to, she only knows what she knows, right?
Yeah.
And if we can create an invisible, visible, we've got her attention. Once we've got her attention, then you can have a platform to speak. But until you've got her attention, you're just lip service. They're like, I've just come in to cut it. I'm in a coma. I need to go home. I've only got an hour.
What do they typically say when you ask that question? What do you want to improve? Where do they go from there?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because it's really about what you're doing is you're decoding her, because you're asking her questions that she's not used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to find out who I've got to work with very early on, not at the end. And so I actually like to upset people a little bit with love. And so really upset them by asking them uncomfortable questions, but with heart talking. And so really by saying to them, what would you like me to improve? When they look at you, they're looking side on. And when they're confused, that's your moment to pull the trigger. That's when you say, would you like a recommendation? What I see that could potentially make you look really soft and pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So if she wants to look soft and pretty, if you see the way she's dressing when she comes in, you know the language. And we really align ourselves to the person we're looking after. So what I would then do is say how it works. And I'd say you've got a dominant chin. If she had a dominant chin, what works really well is if you have your volume opposite to the chin, that would pull that back and make that more flattering, more pretty. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, you've given her a solution for something that actually was not visible, because women are very critical of their features in that vanity in the bathroom. So if you're that's why
there's only so much contouring we can do.
Yeah. But that's why it's cheaper than surgery, and that's why it's addictive.
That's right.
What I think hairdressing salons are a weight loss center. And if we look at it, because the haircuts are about reducing weight and looking slimmer. And ultimately, when your guest walks out, the bigger the hair, the smaller the frame. If we can get her understanding that it's you that she needs in her life every 6 to 8 weeks, then your retention rate will go up. And not only that, your rebooking rate will go up. And all of a sudden, she comes in not for a haircut. She comes in for weight reduction. And so when you get into that space, that's a beautiful space. That's a very beautiful space. But you're the one that has to lead by, creating the invisible to visible via the iPad, pull the trigger on some suggestions that you can add value that she's not expecting, and then going into how you're going to execute those haircuts. Every haircut's got a different name. And we give her a name, every haircut a different name, because it's a brand. We want her to walk away understanding that she's got a tri-volume lift haircut. She's got to try
something unique to her, even though that might be the same thing that you would do on the next client. It doesn't matter. It's something unique to her.
Yeah. And she walks away and she's got bragging rights with her friends. When her friends say, you look amazing, she's like, it's my tri-lift haircut. They're like, what's that? And one thing we try to do with guests is we explain to them, when you go, if you ever get your hair blowed out by another hairdresser, I want you to understand it's got a unique design code. So please tell the hairdresser before you get your blowout, this is a very unique haircut. I love it. And if they criticize it, it's because they don't understand it. So you don't have to be vulnerable by someone. We do have people out there that like to put things down. And even if I have a bad haircut in front of me or a lazy haircut, I never put it down. I mean, the guest is here because she didn't like the last haircut.
Yeah, because they did the best they could with what they had and what knowledge they had and what they had to work with, and based on their communication skills, which I think is a big part of what you're talking about here.
Massively.
If we're not asking the right questions, then we may not be getting to the right solution for that client to have them walk out feeling ultra confident and absolutely beautiful.
Bonnie, that's exactly the essence, because I find a lot of younger hairdressers don't have confidence. It's fake confidence. And a lot of people are bluffing. A lot of people, I was there myself when I was younger. A lot of people are worried about getting found out. A lot of hairdressers are worried about challenging guests just in case they get found out. And what we try to do is what motivates me the most is seeing the switch go off in a hairdresser where they believe what we believe. And all of a sudden we're a united front in hairdressing, because ultimately you know how to do that technique. You understand how to create that technique, and you know who that technique's designed for. And what we do is we design problem solving techniques. So we call, like, every client, every guest has a makeup kit at home when they get ready in the morning, and we give them a hair kit and say, okay, if you follow this process, you're going to get this look. We try to use a very unique language because we have auditory clients. Most of our clients are corporate clients. They're auditory. They're not visual. Yeah. We don't use pictures because if we have to use pictures, that means we're not a great communicator. We have to storytell.
It's not really being unique and defined to them. Yeah. It's not like there's 101 different kind of haircuts. but there's 101 ways to be able to get the right haircut on that client.
Yes.
With our communication, with our confidence, with
Yes.
the tools that we're using, with the knowledge we have.
Yes.
So all of that is really where the specialty is. It's not learning a new haircut.
Yeah. And what we do is you have to be a poet. You have to really understand how to communicate and represent your work at the highest level. But you then have to back it up. So what we teach in our programs is we teach the why, we teach the how, and then really ultimately, why is it important to her? And if we talk about why is it important to her, we've got her attention. And if everything's bespoke about her, she's walking out feeling the center of the universe. And, to me, we have this approach, kings, queens, or princess. We want people to walk out feeling like one of those. And then they're going to come back as an advocate, not as a client. Because a client doesn't bring more clients. A client comes to you because basically she's a habit. When you see salons where they go, I really don't know why she comes back. She doesn't know where else to go. So she's a creature of habit. I'm sure she's asking the same question when she comes back in. Not every guest coming to us is meant for us. So when I'm doing my diagnostic, don't do a consultation via the mirror. I turn the chair, we do face to face, and we sit at the same level. If she wants to dominate and be an alpha female, I have to stand. I have to show her through my physiology that, I believe in what I believe. I don't want to be submissive, and particularly talking about hair, because this is your lane. And what we try to teach hairdressers is know what your lane is. Don't go outside your lane. Don't try something for the first time on the floor. I always love it when I see people experimenting on the floor and I go, no, she's paying you. That's like an architect building your house for the first time, never built a house like that before, and you're the prototype. It's it's high risk.
The confidence is not there. Well, we've got some people joining us on Facebook Live here, Dario. So we got Zan and Alan Benfield Bush. Hello, guys.
Hey, Alan, massive fan.
Yeah, Deborah, thank you for joining us. I know there's more on here, but my computer keeps freezing up that I'm paying attention to all of this. And we're here with Dario from Australia. He's going to be in the States next week, right?
Yeah, next Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday with our 3-day mentor program.
In New York. So it's at the Arrojo Brooklyn studio?
Yeah, and Nick's amazing. Like, we've worked in Nick's, amazing. Very generous and really hospitable. In the program, awesome. I'll just walk you through in the program. In the program we have, we go through long hair on day 1. And then we talk about bone structure, and we talk about really how to read bone structure, not face shapes, bone structure. Because what I laugh is when a woman comes in and she says to you, I've got a round face. I laugh. What she's saying is, I feel fat. Now, I never say yes.
I have a fat face.
Yeah. And there is no such thing as a round face, because that would be a soccer ball, right? And so, like, a symmetrically round. So instead of saying yes to what she said, we don't, really I teach mind management with hairdressers. You manage the mind, you manage the process, and you carefully navigate your way through to making sure you re-educate and making her feel empowered. So I talk about where her broadest areas are, whether it be through here, her hips. And again, we call this the hips of a woman's face. We call layers shoulder pads. And so the idea is the bigger the shoulder pads, the smaller the hips. When we articulate it in a way, we've got her attention, and then we educate what's going to suit her in terms of where we feel for the next 8 weeks she needs to have confidence, because that's all we're responsible for. We're looking after her for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So
that's the maintenance of it. Not the one-off.
No one's
if she feels good for 6 to 8 weeks, then she has to come back to feel good for 6 to 8 more weeks. And I think that we really lose that ability to have that longevity conversation with our clients, because we're not using the right language to have them realize that there's a maintenance program attached to your hair.
100%. If we're talking about this is designed to last 6 to 8 weeks, it'll start breaking down around the 7th and 8th week. And if we've got expectations set from the beginning, it's easy. But I think a lot of people don't want to talk about things that are very honest. Like, we talk about money first. We talk about time first. Yeah. We talk about exactly every guest comes in has to actually sign 3 times when she gets a hair color in our salon. She has a mood form when she comes in, what mood she's in today. She has to sign it. The next page of the diagnostic form is that when we finish our diagnostic, she has to write down what she understands she's getting today. Because if you know how many women, when you say at the end, okay, can I get you to write down what you understand you're getting? She's like, what am I getting? So she's not even there.
Or the surprise that now you think you've communicated, say, that 3 minutes on the front end of a service.
Yeah.
And then she looks at it in the mirror and she's like, okay, that, you know, it's fine. I think it's close. When I get home and do it myself, I'll know how to do it.
Yeah.
And then she walks out to, you know, to the front to be able to pay. And sometimes it's like shock, shock, shock.
Yeah. And people
and
go,
why are we setting our clients up to feel shocked walking out the door?
and this is my challenge to every hairdresser. Why do we do the things we do? We've only been taught what we've been taught to the best of the ability that those that taught us. Now, for me, I look at other industries. I look at architecture. I look at advertising, and I look at how they treat their customers and clients throughout the creative process. So there's many sign-offs along the way. And we work with this beautiful branding company, Blue Marlin, which are based in America, in New York and based in London. When we created MyCurl, we spent $45,000 creating the brand, the pack, the design. It took 12 weeks to understand, to give birth to that brand. And what they taught me in between was really about understanding the layers and bringing me on a journey through the process. So what we're doing with our guests is we get her to write down what she understands. If she doesn't, we help her. She has to write down the price because we've quoted her the price. She has to write down how long it's going to take because we've spoken about that. If we've got all that signed off, she signs it. And before she leaves, we have to check with her. We have post-it notes on the mirror. There's a whole process to this. It's a whole ceremony to it. And we give her a sound bite. We've achieved this. This was our 3 goals today. Bang, bang, bang. Great. I'll get you to sign off that we've completed the scope of works for today. Now, she does not leave until she signs that off. And we have terms and conditions on there. It's very simple, but that's something that I teach. And that's taken 29 years. Very simple, very few questions, but very meaningful. So going back to the program, is that day one's about long hair, really beautiful bespoke techniques. Now, the techniques we have are very different. We look at dressmaking and pattern making. So a lot of my haircuts are cut underneath. I love to protect my color line. So we do beautiful haircuts where the belt of the haircut is underneath. That's the slimming element of the haircut. So the top layer looks really expensive, but it's editorial hair. So it's magazine hair. And then day 2, we go into
what everybody wants. People want editorial hair.
Yeah, and I love lived-in cutting, and I love lived-in hair color. I love things that make, I'm an Italian background, so I love Parisian, Italian. I love women walking out looking beautiful, but their version of beauty, not ours, right? Because I've seen that go the other way. And then we go through on day 2, which is medium hair and styling and changing habits. Then we get into day 3, which is short hair. And that's day 3 is the kicker. Day 3 is where I teach how to rebalance the face without surgery. So we go through 6-point blow dry. We go through how to understand how to diagnose. And I teach everyone our amazing diagnostic process. And for me, it's really about, if you want to change your life, if you want to change your habits, and you really want to understand your worth, this is a course for you. But it's only for those that really want to change their life. And I say to hairdressers, don't think about this course as after 3 days I'm going to be amazing. This course will help you in 1 to 3 years' time. Because every day I get up, I come to work, I think to myself, what I'm doing today is going to help me in 5 years' time, not today. I'm paying it forward. And I look back at my 15-year-old self when I started, and I thank that 15-year-old for making the sacrifices that I made to get to where I am. And I think a lot of people, especially younger hairdressers, it's a lifestyle. It's an amazing lifestyle, hairdressing. But ultimately, if you want to charge more, you need to do more, and you need to do the work.
Right. You need to be more. You need to do more. You need to have more confidence.
Yes.
Skill,
Yes.
knowledge,
yes.
all of that.
Yeah. So ultimately, what I do in the course is I push hairdressers beyond their limits, and pushing them beyond their limits, and with love, and I help them understand a whole completely new way how to cut hair, how to style hair, and how to manage relationships and make them sustainable. Now, what we do to back up this course is every hairdresser attending gets free access to our online program, which is me doing the cuts that they're going to learn, and that'll be up there to December 31st.
So they can keep up on that
they can go back and they can revisit
learning.
it. Yeah, and that's the success of our mentor program. Now, for those that can't make it next week, we're coming back in January. I love coming back. Any excuse I come back to America, I'm there. And we're coming back to Chicago as well and LA in January. I know it's freezing in New York. But for me, it's all about learning how to rewire your brain. And if you can learn to rewire the way you think, if you can change the picture, you can change the words. It's,
Yeah.
the brain is, I do a lot of work on how the mind works. You've got to give yourself a lot of dopamine hits. I love those wow moments in a haircut. When you teach a guest something new, it's wow. That's a dopamine hit for her and you. So that's what helps us create a great memory, behavioral, to change our behavior. So the more you, and the idea is that ultimately the course where we collaborate you on how to change that mindset, how to change that process, and then the online learning helps you sustain that. That's really the key.
Right. There's the maintenance that you're offering.
Yeah, because I love it, because it's a long term. A lot of the people I teach in America, I've taught for a while. A lot of people I teach in Australia, like, I know our colleague, our beautiful friend, Sharon Blaine, very, very, very amazing. I know she's in the US at the moment.
Yeah, she is. She's here now. We love her.
Yeah. And, when I met Sharon, I used to cut Sharon's hair when I was, 21, and Sharon offered me a job when I was an apprentice, like we go back, way back. And I remember when I went out on my own with DCI and Sharon approached me to train her staff, it was a massive responsibility for me because I have tremendous amount of respect for Sharon.
Right. She's the master.
Yeah. But Sharon's staff, I mean, she had an 18. It was amazing. And I taught them once a month for 15 years, every month. And one of the things that we taught them was how to be classically trained, but also how to be incredibly confident and proud of being different. And I think that's the thing that I'm really hoping to try to get it to come through.
Dario, I think the confidence is well worth the price for people to invest into, knowing they're going to get some really good skill from you all the way around.
Yeah, and just really investing in themselves. I mean, I encourage hairdressers to do as many courses to get to understand where their lane is, because everyone's got a different design code and aesthetic code. And the more I went to when I was younger, the more I understood where I belonged. And I love expensive things. So I love teaching how to do expensive hair. And it's, you have to do a lot of work. I mean, when your limits can only do this, and then you eventually get to this, you just have to look at our DCI. For those that don't know who we are, just go on to DCI Education, DCI_education on Instagram. And you'll see the type of work that we do. And not only that, our community, we get sent photos every single day from around the world of the best hairdressers asking us to promote their work. And we're a village. And I love seeing hairdressers produce work at that really international level that truly speaks self-confidence, because ultimately it's one thing having it, it's another thing producing it.
Yeah. Well, I want to just my perspective and knowing you to the degree that I know you, which is not a long time. Sharon was one of the people that introduced us, but
we're online buddies now.
For us, yeah. Now we're like best buds here. Our ability to be able to teach people in a loving way, as you express, I can see that you do that. So I can see that even though some of the learning might be intimidating for your students along the way, I can see that you compassionately are caring about them through the process of it.
Yeah.
It seems to me that you have some really good systems in place, which I'm a big believer in, because this is not haphazard. You can't be haphazard and think that you're going to increase your value or your worth or your currency as a hairdresser at the end of the day. You have to have systems in place that maintain that and keep that stable. So I can see that you've got some really good systems. And I think part of it then is you've been formally trained classically, you've been creatively trained with, like you said, the plastic surgeon. And I think that those are all winning formulas for people to say, I need to do the DCI education program, how much, when, and where. So give us the, lay it out, give us what we need to know. It's July 22nd through the 24th, right? And I posted the dates and DCI education on on the page right now as well.
Thank you. And look, part of this is coming over and really collaborating with people that want to come on a journey where they really want to evolve as a person, most importantly, because I think that when I talked about style currency at the beginning of the video, is that we all have a currency. And some hairdressers can say, I charge $25 for a haircut. Some hairdressers will say, I charge $50. When I say I charge $275 to $550, there is no arrogance whatsoever in that. What it is commitment that I've had to really understand my self-worth along the way. Going back to your original, the style currency for me if you can look at your work and when it leaves your salon, it still has currency. And every week that it walks around in your guest tribe and community, is the currency speaking to new potential guests. And if you're not getting 5 new guests a week, if you're not getting 5 new referrals a week, then nobody's speaking about you. And therefore, it says a lot about where you are. And I love the honesty of, if the phone doesn't ring, then the honesty of we're not doing anything that has any currency whatsoever other than maintaining. And if we're just maintaining, we're not growing. If we're not growing, yeah, and if we're not growing, we're getting stale. And my friend Richard Manor, that's over in New York, I remember Richard, great guy. We worked together 20-something years ago. And, he came up with this quote, I love it. You're either better or you're bitter. And I hear a lot of bitterness when people, and I just love it. Again, I bring it back to, if you're not getting 5 new referrals a week, then you have to have a really good hard look at yourself and say, well, what do I need to learn? Who do I need to align myself to grow? Because if you're not growing, you're bitter. And if you're growing, you're changing your family's life. You're changing your future family's life. And that's what motivates me as a person.
And you're mentoring other people, and nothing's more gratifying than being that, having the opportunity to be a mentor to others.
It's a privilege. It really is a privilege. And
really an honor.
Yeah. And the people that we look after and watching them grow, it's a privilege to maintain those relationships. So in a nutshell, we're coming to New York on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday next week, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. For 3 days, it's $1,200. And what you get is 8 haircuts, amazingly beautiful, precise editorial haircuts, and teaching you the how, the why, and most importantly, how to connect with people in a really sophisticated, unique way that's going to separate you and give you style currency. Because I want when people walk out of your business to understand why they should take the risk and recommend people to come and see you.
I love that. So you're in Brooklyn at the Arroyo School.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, it's a great location. So for those people that can make it to New York, or you're in the tri-state area and you can make this work, how many seats are available? Because I know it's limited seating, right?
Yeah. We've also got people flying in from different states. So, I mean, when I was there 2 years ago, we got a girl flying from London. We had a girl from Canada. I teach this course in London as well as in Australia. So we have a capacity of 10. We have a few spots left. And, I'd really love to see, I always have this when I come over, just really working with people that, want to be the best version or the next version of themselves. Because really it's not about celebrating where we've been. It's about celebrating where we're going. And I love,
where we're going.
Yeah, I love that optimism of watching people hungry to learn. I mean, I'll give you an example. In my class 2 years ago in New York, we had a lady turn up, and when she turned up, she wasn't in the best mood. And she was, you know what, I'll just do today. I'm going to go. And that's how she walked into the class. And I was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Let's give me the day and we'll get through today. And I knew at the end of the day, I knew after about an hour, once she settled, that she would get into it. And after about 3-4 hours, I understood that she checked into a really bad hotel, didn't have the best sleep. And after about 3-4 hours, I could hear her calling her husband. And I told her, please check into my hotel in Manhattan. It's a really nice hotel. And she did that. And we caught an Uber every day back to Manhattan. And just watching her from what she thought it was going to be when she first walked in, she was very challenged, to after about 3-4 hours, understanding that she needed to be there. Yeah. And now I've got a friend for life because I've helped her change her thinking. And that motivates me. That really motivates me.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Dario, thank you. And listen, if you can't make it to this next weekend with Dario, he's coming back in January, and stay tuned because the Beauty Agent Network is going to continue to promote him, and we'll do another spotlight as well. Yeah, so you can find Dario on the Beauty Agent Network. Obviously, that's a resource for educators and education, and we're trying to, it's like anything. We're trying to add more value to our industry, and we're trying to add more value to the work that we do every day in the salons. Dario is certainly one of the pleasures to be able to work with, and I hope that some of you guys can make it to New York this weekend. If not, please stay tuned with us, because when we bring him back, we'll have more information, more locations, and more opportunities for you as well. And, you know, I love the way you were talking about the style currency, and I get the Seth Godin blog every day. I don't know if you read that.
No, I don't.
And he says, we're still clueless about lifetime value. If Apple upgrade breaks your phone and you switch to an Android, it costs Apple $10,000. If you switch supermarkets because the clerk was snide to you, it removes $50,000 from that store.
Wow.
And he goes on to do examples like that. And then he says the short-term impact, plus or minus, of your work or your areas is dwarfed by the long-term effects. Compounded over time, little things become big things. And some of this is also what's going to make the difference for your success. I think it's a lot of what you were just talking about. And, you know, 3 days with Dario can have a long-term impact, as you had shared, 1 to 3 years out, you know, but I'm sure there's some instant gratification and some instant confidence. But 1 to 3 years out is the investment that you're making. And I really trust that. So I'll be posting some more on the Beauty Agent Network on Bonnie Bonadeo, and then I'll make sure I post it on here on the Facebook Live and Hairdressers Advice, how to get in touch. So you're going to go to DCIeducation.com to sign up for his program.
Bonnie, thank you. No, thank you. And I really love, you know, when you meet people like yourself, Bonnie, that are really genuine about their cause and paying it forward. It's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure. I mean, I feel blessed that, you know, Sharon introduced us. So that's great.
Yeah, me too. It's an amazing blessing. So I'm sorry that I'm going to miss you in New York next week, but let's do a little chat or text while you're here and let me know how things are going. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Bonnie. And thank you to all my American friends.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. You got questions, feel free to add and tag to this, and I'll make sure that Dario and I can answer any of those questions for you as we progress over the next week. Awesome. Thank you, Dario.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.